Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast on day 43 of the Russia-Ukraine conflict from Kiev. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Our top story, big breaking story coming in from the United Nations where Russia has been suspended from the UNHRC. Russia will no longer be a part of the United Nations Human Rights Council, and this comes after voting. This wasn't a consensus decision. There was voting, and with overwhelming majority, with more than two-thirds majority, a decision was taken to remove Russia from the UNHRC. 93 votes against, 24 in favor of Russia, 58 including India abstained. Now, Russia has been in the line of fire after the Bucha killings came to light. Russia, of course, has constantly maintained that this was a false flag operation by Ukraine to tarnish Russia's image at the behest of the United States of America and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries. Russia also sees this as the Western Bloc uniting against Russia and conspiring against it. But overwhelmingly, this was the North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries and the United States all reaching out to members to vote Russia out of the UNHRC. This was also a request that was made by President Zelensky of Ukraine, saying after the Bucha massacre, after what was happening in places like Mariupol, Irpin, Hostomel, Russia does not deserve a place at the UNHRC. That's the claim being made by Zelensky, President Zelensky of Ukraine, and also by countries like the United States and the United Kingdom backing President Zelensky and Ukraine. So 93 votes to oust Russia from the UNHRC or suspend Russia from the UNHRC, 58 abstained including India. What was the reason for countries abstaining? Let's listen in to India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Tirumurti.
India has abstained on the resolution adopted in the General Assembly today. We do so for reasons of both substance and process. Since the inception of the Ukrainian conflict, India has stood for peace, dialogue, and diplomacy. We believe that no solution can be arrived at by shedding blood and at the cost of innocent lives. If India has chosen any side, it is the side of peace, and it is for an immediate end to violence. We continue to remain deeply concerned at the worsening situation and reiterate our call for end to all hostilities. When innocent human lives are at stake, diplomacy must prevail as the only viable option. Recent reports of civilian killings in Bucha are deeply disturbing. We have unequivocally condemned these killings and support the call for an independent investigation.
The world heard of horrors of Bucha, Irpin and Hostomel. India Today's team reports from Berdyansk. It's one of the worst hit areas. In fact, Berdyansk is where Russia established a tactical headquarters when it failed to capture Hostomel. And the images at Berdyansk are horrifying. Aid workers and emergency rescue teams are still on ground zero trying to rescue people from the rubble of buildings targeted by Russia, both using missiles and aircraft. India Today's Lalit Mohan Joshi and I bring you this ground report from Berdyansk. We are currently en route Berdyansk, one of the worst hit areas on the outskirts of Kiev. This is beyond Irpin, Bucha and Hostomel, and the road is so heavily mined that we cannot even take the road route. This is where the Russians had one of their bases between Belarus and Kiev, and if you look ahead, we are traveling through a road that has been carved out of the jungle. This is the first time that emergency workers and health workers are also going towards Berdyansk. We do not know what the situation is on ground right now, and we are going with the Ukrainian army relief supplies that are going, and teams that are trying to defuse the landmines, the anti-personnel mines and the anti-tank mines that are deployed on the road. So the road route is not possible, so we are taking a route through the forest. This is where the destruction has been as bad, if not worse, than what was witnessed in Bucha and Hostomel, and that is why this route through the forest because roads will still take the next couple of days to be cleared. Berdyansk, this is about 60 kilometers from Ukraine's capital Kiev and one of the worst hit areas in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. You've heard about what happened at Hostomel or Bucha and Irpin. Berdyansk is again as badly, if not worse, hit in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This is the first time that Ukraine army soldiers are also coming in here, assessing the damage that was done during the 43 days of conflict so far. The Russian forces, of course, have retreated beyond the Belarus border, but look at the damage that was done. Trucks, fuel trucks, armored personal carriers, tanks and APCs, troop carriers, all lying burnt on the main road of Berdyansk. This is the main highway. This is the mother of Ukraine, the statue of the mother of Ukraine and the memorial of those who were killed in the Soviet Revolution. In this place, the destruction has been intense and immense. This road was completely in control of the Russian forces. In fact, this building had been taken over and was the tactical headquarters of the Russian army. A number of operations had to be mounted to recover this building, this road and this area. Ukraine army officers now going lane to lane, street to street in an attempt to find out, one, the extent of damage, two, help that people require, three, clearing this entire area of landmines, anti-personnel mines and anti-tank mines. The effort is also to find out if there are still some pockets where Russian soldiers, supporters, sympathizers could be hiding. Now, right now there is a clearance operation happening. Soldiers stand guard outside the street when some others go inside. And once an all clear is given, they move to the next lane. Emergency workers and healthcare workers are also just coming in to this area to find out what all help needs to be provided to people here who haven't had access to food, water or medicines in the past 43 days. Tell us about the destruction that took place in this area.
Скажите, что было здесь, который вот это...
До войны, да?
Нет, сейчас на войне, время войны.
Ну ж як, були бойові дії, йшли колони і ми їх це підбивали, розстрілювали.
बोले यहाँ पर आए थे, रशिया से लोग आए थे आर्मी वाले और उन्होंने यहाँ पे स्टार्ट किया था और हमारे लोगों ने, हमने उनको तेराबरून जो हमारा यहाँ पे था, उन्होंने उनको मार के यहाँ से भगाया है.
और यहाँ ये जो मूर्तियों का डिस्ट्रक्शन है,
Это памятник, который здесь.
Ну це у нас був городський парк.
ये पूरे शहर का पार्क है ये.
Оце навіть церква була Московського патріархата, руська.
चर्च है वो, रशिया की चर्च है वो.
Значить, от це наш архангел, ну, Михаїл, ну, як бог города, типу, ну.
मतलब ये मिखाइल जो है जैसे भगवान है उस शहर के भगवान.
Значить, отут, оце мать Родина, це пам'ятник в честь воїнам, які, ну, нашим дідам, які в 41-45 годах в армії.
जो 41 से 45 में जो वर्ल्ड वार जो हुआ था, उसमें जिन लोगों ने यहाँ पे लड़ाई लड़ी थी, उनसे रिलेटेड है ये.
Тут був монумент, значить, поховань, ну, наших граждан або людей, які загибли в різні періоди ці. Значить, тут були поховання чекістів, які у 18-20-х годах забирали хліб.
जो
були вбиті в селах.
18 से 20 के जो 1918 से 20 के बीच में जो रेवोल्यूशन हुआ था, उससे पहले जो था, वो उस टाइम का ये यहाँ पर हैगा, जो कि.
Значить, тут поховання був, після війни умер перший секретар райкома партії. Ось пам'ятник його стався.
सेक्रेटरी था जो पहला वर्ल्ड वार हुआ था, उसके बाद जो फर्स्ट सेक्रेटरी था, ये उसकी कब्र है ये.
І плюс тут були поховані братська могила, тут було гестапо і, ну, остатки людей, які, ну, тоді не ідентифіковані.
जो आइडेंटिफाई नहीं हो पाए थे, जो लोग मर गए थे, उनके जो अवशेष थे, उनकी ये कब्र उससे बना हुआ है ये. उनको दबाया गया था यहाँ पर. И сколько людей вы думаете погибли военные и простые люди, которые здесь?
Ну, и военных много, ближе, может, к сотне. Я, честно, не знаю, были разные цифры. Вот. И мирных тоже. Если смотреть именно по нашему городу, ну, может быть, 50, может быть, будет.
мирные люди это, да?
Мирные.
हाँ.
Мирные.
ये बोल रहे हैं ये रशिया का टैंक है और वहां से आया था और तकरीबन जो इस लड़ाई में जो फौजी लोग हैं 100 आदमियों के करीब डेथ हुई है और जो यहाँ के नागरिक हैं जो कि जिनके हाथ में हथियार नहीं थे उनकी भी 50 लोगों के करीब डेथ हुई है जो कि इनको आसपास से पता लगा है. इनका घर पास में ही है, वहीं पे ये रहते थे.
We are currently in Berdyanka and with me is Hana. Hana is engaged in the relief and rescue operations. Hana, what can you tell us about your operations here?
Well, I'm just a volunteer. We came with the religious volunteers and we are helping to clean the territory and to help to get all that back in order to help to find people. We are volunteering for the National Emergency Service.
Are there still people feared trapped in the debris?
I don't know exactly whether in this building, but in some buildings people definitely were trapped and they died, and emergency service found several corpses today.
They found several corpses in these buildings.
What about the numbers here and the situation? Probably better to ask officials. But of course, people were trapped and probably will be found here.
How long will it take for your operations to continue to clear this entire area?
I think that people are changing, so emergency service involves volunteers from Kiev to help. So probably people will change, but I think people will help until the territory will be ready for people to stay here. I don't know about the buildings, but we are cleaning the territory in order to make it safe.
For speaking to us here at India Today, Hana, many thanks. Hana is one of the volunteers, a worker here, and if you look around, there are hundreds of volunteers who are working, trying to clear this area. Now, this was a 9-storied building that was damaged in intense shelling and rocket fire that took place between the 24th of February and the 31st of March. There were a series of attacks that took place in this area, and it's only now, after the retreat of the Russian soldiers, that emergency workers are able to come to this area and look for those who may be trapped in the debris. A building completely destroyed in shelling that took place, and with us is Maria Barabash. Maria works with the Ukraine President Zelensky in his office. Maria, what can you tell us about this shelling and the rescue operations?
The situation is horrified. So a lot of people are still under these buildings, and you can see that it's not possible to rebuild it, so it should be built from scratch. And the most terrified that almost all the buildings are in this Borodyanka village are the same. So we will rebuild it for sure, and it will take time, but we need heavy weapons to fight against Russian and Belarusian aggression.
Now, if we were to talk about, the damage to this village, to Borodyansk, what kind of damage? You are carrying out an assessment, right? What can you tell us about the damage in this area?
We're still confirming the damage, but you can see like 80% of all the village is destroyed. So no people can live here, so it should be rebuilt from scratch.
बर्दयांस्क में आज बहुत जबरदस्त रेस्क्यू और रिलीफ ऑपरेशन चल रहा है। ये सारी बिल्डिंग्स बिल्कुल तबाह हो गई हैं और इसमें अभी रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन चल रहा है। कुलदीप जी, आप वो रेस्क्यू वर्कर से बात कर रहे थे, उनकी जो टीम लीडर से, वो क्या बता रहे थे आपको?
देखिए, कह रहे हैं इस जगह पर जो इस वाले मेरे पीछे जो है, इसमें 13 से 15 लोगों के फंसे होने का अंदेशा है, और वहां पर जो है उसमें ज्यादा लोग हैं, लेकिन बोल रहे थे जैसे कि वहां से कुछ आवाजें आ रही हैं, तो डॉक्टर्स भी आ गए हैं रेस्क्यू करने के लिए, टीम भी, इसीलिए उस जगह को पहले क्लीन किया जा रहा है कि लोगों के किसी के बचने होने की उनको उम्मीद है, जो आवाजों से पता लग रहा है। तो अब थोड़ी वक्त के बाद, इस सफाई के बाद पता लगेगा कि ये उनको बचा पाते हैं या नहीं।
बर्दयांस्क में इतना ज्यादा नुकसान क्यों? यहाँ पर हवा से जमीन पर क्यों वार किया गया रूस की तरफ से? इस पर क्या जानकारी मिली?
देखिए, जानकारी जो कुछ ऐसी मिल रही है कि पेट्रोल बम वगैरह भी फेंके गए, तो जिस करके ये वार जो है उस करके इन्होंने जो हवाई हमला जो किया है उस करके किया है, जो मुझे इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली है। कितना सच है कितना झूठ है,
नाउ दिस इज अ टीम दैट इज ऑन स्टैंड बाय। इट्स स्लोली गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, inching forward, trying to look for survivors in this rubble. This building, according to information given by people here, was destroyed in an airstrike, and emergency workers could not get here in time. But some locals say there could be survivors here, and that is why the focus is on this building, one of the many that have been targeted here in Berdyansk. So healthcare workers and emergency workers are all here standing by, amidst locals saying that they've heard voices coming from inside this rubble, and that is why their effort is to try and get into this area. What they're also doing here is trying to put oxygen through a pipe and trying to send food down, because if people had gone down and found a cavity to survive, in case voices are still being heard in the rubble, they're hoping against hope that there would be survivors inside, and perhaps in a bunker or a basement. So food packets are here, water is here, doctors are on standby, all in an effort to find survivors amidst this wrecked building destroyed in an airstrike, another building destroyed in a missile strike here in Berdyansk, Ukraine. It's only now that healthcare workers and emergency services have been able to reach here, and they still say it's a race against time to save lives. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Berdyansk, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. Ukraine is now bracing for phase 2 of this conflict, which threatens to be even more intense and deadly. The Russian forces have been withdrawn from the north and now are being placed towards the east, where there already is an intensification of missile strikes and rocket attacks, whether in Luhansk, Donetsk, Mariupol or Kharkiv. In fact, the government here has asked people to move out of Mariupol and Kharkiv as quickly as they can, especially after the horrors of Bucha, Irpin and Hostomel. We bring you this report on day 43 of the conflict.
It is the next stage of Russian offensive, and it promises to be deadlier, bloodier and more brutal. Weeks into a punishing push into Ukraine amid fierce resistance and reverses in war zones. Putin's invasion army is now planning a mega change of battle tactics. After halting its offensive in and around Kyiv, Russia is preparing an all-out offensive, targeting Kharkiv, Mariupol, Luhansk and Donetsk. The aim is perhaps to salami slice Ukraine's east and establish a corridor starting from Crimea to all the way to Kharkiv.
With the decision to withdraw forces from western Ukraine, the focus is now on eastern Ukraine. Mariupol almost taken, Volvonaka under Russian control, and this, Donetsk and Luhansk, is the war zone.
So what emerges from the change strategy is a relentless Russian bombing spree and intensified attacks on Ukraine's southern and eastern parts. Kyiv has told residents of eastern Ukraine regions of Kharkiv, Luhansk and Donetsk to evacuate now or risk death. The governor of Luhansk has warned of a doomsday assault on the city, warning that Russia is building up troops for offensive in a matter of days, revealing that Russian forces are attacking Popasna city with Grad rocket launchers and jets. The massive twist in Russian war game has triggered fears of a prolonged war. NATO chief said there has been no sign that the Russian president has dropped his ambition to control the whole of Ukraine, adding the war could last for many months or even years.
We have seen no indication that President Putin has changed his ambition to control the whole of Ukraine and also to rewrite the international order. So we need to be prepared for a long haul. We need to support Ukraine, sustain our sanctions and strengthen our defenses and our deterrence. Because this can last for a long time and we need to be prepared for that.
Has the Ukraine war entered an even more difficult phase? With Geeta Mohan in Donetsk war zone, Bureau Report, India Today.
Ukraine continues to level allegations of war crimes against Russia, and not just in Bucha, but even in Mariupol, where Ukraine claims more than 5,000 civilians not involved in this war were massacred by Russians and buried in mass graves. Now, this too is a charge that's been denied by Russia. They say this is a part of the information warfare being waged by America, using Ukraine as a pawn in a larger game. Ukraine claims while these war crimes have been carried out by Russia, Moscow says they've rescued people from Mariupol who were being targeted by the Ukrainian artillery and they were brought out of harm's way by Russian soldiers. India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan in Donetsk with this report.
Venturing out from homes, navigating through streets littered with bodies, rummaging through the rubble for belongings. Images from Bucha that revealed the horrific side of Russian President Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine have stunned the world. While the exact toll is not available, the mayor of Bucha claims more than 90% of the bodies have bullet wounds and not shrapnels.
So bad is the situation that Tatya has just buried her child who was killed in shelling right here. And she broke down as she explained that to me, that the child must be very cold.
Ukraine and its Western allies say there is enough evidence to prove Russian soldiers committed war crimes in Bucha.
Prohibited weapons were used to target civilian objects, and we certainly know that they were uncontrolled. We can classify this as a war crime and we investigate this. Many cities in Ukraine, I can mention only several regions which did not get into. The rest of the territory was affected. Anyway, the crime of aggression concerns the whole country.
Moscow has rejected the charges and called the allegations a monstrous forgery.
In the entire course of events, a huge amount of data, facts and other parameters do clearly witness that this is a forgery conducted to try and smear the Russian army. It will not work.
Claims and counterclaims are flying thick and fast since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Kyiv claims Russians bombed a children's hospital in Mariupol that killed over 50 people.
They are already launching a false campaign to hide their own guilt in the mass killings of civilians in Mariupol. They will do dozens of staged interviews, re-edited recordings, and will kill people specifically to make it look like they were killed by someone else.
Russians, on the other hand, point to testimonies of people they claim to have rescued from Mariupol.
They occupied the floor of the traumatology department in the hospital, installed grenade launchers and started shooting. There is another one nearby with probably 100 people, including children and the wounded. So we were told that we were given 15 minutes to evacuate, run or whatever, and then the Ukrainians would mine the entire building.
The killings of Bucha have prompted worldwide condemnation. India too has condemned the murders committed in the Ukrainian city.
Condemn the killings which have taken place there.
The West is scaling up its efforts to corner Russia over alleged war crimes. France has already opened 3 investigations. But getting Putin to answer for the alleged war crimes could be near impossible. With Gaurav Sawant in Bucha, Bureau Report, India Today.
Details of Ukraine Army's operations that resulted in the collapse of the Russian assault, especially around Kyiv, are now emerging. It wasn't just the use of the Javelin anti-tank guided missiles, which of course played a very critical role, and surface-to-air missiles that sanitized the airspace. It was also intelligence that was provided, real-time intelligence provided by the United States of America on the movement of the Russian armor and artillery. And this took away the element of surprise, helping Ukraine to prepare better for counterattacks. Also the role played by the special forces in disrupting the supply lines. We bring you this report.
2, 1, push!
Carnage, brutal atrocities, bloodshed and bodies strewn all over. Ukrainian cities are ravaged. The front lines of the war also paint a picture of a country in an all-out war. Ukraine says its troops are locked in a no-holds-barred assault on Russian troops, revealing that warriors in Netflix series made on the country have also joined the war front.
The official Twitter handle for the defense of Ukraine tweeted images of armed Ukrainian soldiers on combat duty on the front line, patrolling the border with Russia, snipers keeping guard to target Russian troop movements, and constantly firing with machine guns and automatic guns in a bid to check Russian advances. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry tweeted a video of its air and land assaults, including rocket and missile firing targeting the Russian troops. It says it's managed to kill thousands of Russian troops. The images tweeted by Ukrainian troops showed bodies of Russian soldiers killed in the war lined up. Many of the images are extremely gory, showing bloodied remains of Russian soldiers, many still in their uniform. The images also show alleged Russian spies arrested by Ukrainian troops. Ukrainian troops are using mobile missile launchers to wipe out Russian armor. As the war rages on in eastern flanks of Ukraine, there are signs that fierce Ukrainian fightback will make Putin's aim of a strategic salami slicing of Ukraine much more difficult. Bureau Report, India Today.
43 days into the Russia-Ukraine war, the apprehension is in the days and weeks ahead, this war could intensify, and not just towards the south and the east, but even Kyiv could be targeted once again by Russia. Some of the businesses are just reopening, and the apprehension is they would be forced to close shop, at least temporarily, once again. We will continue to track developments on this story, but that is all I have time for on this India Today special broadcast from Ukraine. Many thanks for watching.